The jungle of Gabon is unforgiving. It is a world ruled by territory, hierarchy, and brute strength. Here, mistakes are rarely forgiven. In 2014, a small boat motored up a remote river in West Africa. On board was Tennessee Aspinall. She was traveling into the heart of wilderness to find someone she had lost. 12 years earlier, she had said goodbye to two gorillas she helped rise. They were family, but now they were wild animals. The guides had been clear. Do not approach them. Do not touch them. These are fully grown silverbacks. But when the boat docked, Tennessee made a choice that terrified the crew. She stepped into the bank, and then the dominant male charged.
To understand the danger of that moment on the riverbank, we have to go back to the suburbs of Canterbury, England. This wasn't a typical childhood. Tansy was the daughter of Damien Aspinall, a tycoon turned conservationist who ran the Howlett's Wild Animal Park. Damien's philosophy was radical. He believed the barrier between human and animal was artificial. Tansy didn't just visit the zoo, she lived inside the enclosures. Her playmates weren't classmates, they were gorillas. Specifically, two orphans, Jalta and Bims. Jalta had been rejected by his mother. He was fragile, requiring round-the-clock care. Tansy, though only a child herself, became a surrogate sibling. She bottle-fed him, slept near him, and communicated with him in a language of grunts and touch. But the outside world saw only risk. When photos surfaced of a young Tansy inside the enclosure with growing apes, the public backlash was severe. Authorities threatened to shut the foundation down, and their concerns weren't baseless. A gorilla, even one raised with affection, possesses 10 times the strength of a human adult. A single reflexive grab could shatter bone. The line between play and tragedy is razor thin. Damien was forced to separate his daughter from her companions. A glass wall was erected, the first barrier of many. As Tansy grew, so did Jalta and Bims. They were transforming from playful infants into powerful adolescents. Damien Aspinall's end goal was never captivity, it was freedom. He pioneered a controversial rewilding program, aiming to send zoo-raised gorillas back to their ancestral homelands in Africa. The logistics were grueling. The psychological toll was heavier. For the gorillas to survive in the wild, they had to be weaned off human dependence. The hugs stopped, the play stopped, and then the day came. Jalta and Bims were flown to a protected reserve in Gabon. Tansy said her goodbyes, believing she would never see them again. Over the next decade, reports came back. The boys had survived. They had joined wild troops, fought for dominance, and hardened into true wild animals. They had become fully wild. The gentle orphans Tansy knew were gone. 12 years passed. Tansy was now an adult, working in the family foundation. But the question plagued her, do they remember? Science suggests that wild animals shed their domestic memories to survive. Remembering humans is a weakness in the jungle. When Damien announced an expedition to check on the troop, Tansy refused to be left behind. But the warnings were stark. This wasn't a zoo visit. This was a trek into unmapped territory. They traveled by plane, then off-road vehicle, and finally, a small skiff up the river. The local trackers were on high alert. They warned the Aspinalls that Jalta and Bims were now dominant males, silverbacks. They possessed the strength to tear a human apart in seconds. If the gorillas felt threatened, there would be no negotiation. As the boat engine cut, silence fell over the river. The humidity was suffocating. Then, movement. Dark eyes watching from the dense green wall of the jungle. Tansy spotted him. Jalta. He was massive, double the size he had been when they last touched. His brow was heavy, his posture rigid. He was scanning the intruders. Ignoring the protocol of the trackers, Tansy moved to the edge of the boat. She stepped onto the mud. Her father, Damien, was right behind her. They made themselves vulnerable. Jalta moved. He didn't walk. He surged forward on all fours. The trackers tensed, hands hovering near their tranquilizer rifles, a last resort that would take too long to stop a charge. Jalta closed the distance, towering over Tansy. He reached out a massive, leather pad hand. He pulled her in, but he didn't crush her. He sniffed her face, inhaling a scent that had been buried in his memory for over a decade. He let out a low, rumbling groan, a sound of recognition. Then came Bims. The reunion defied every biological expectation. The wild silverbacks began to groom Tansy, checking her hair, nuzzling her neck, treating her not as a threat, and not as a stranger, but as a returning member of the troop. For hours, the hierarchy of the jungle was suspended. Tansy held the face of the animal she once bottle-fed. The years, the distance, the change in environment, none of it mattered. The cognitive bond remained intact. As the sun began to set, the danger of the jungle returned. The humans had to leave before nightfall. The separation was visceral. The gorillas clung to them, confusing the boat crew who had never seen apex predators display such grief. Tansy, Aspinall's journey proved something profound. We often underestimate the emotional intelligence of the natural world. We assume that wild means heartless, but on a riverbank in Gabon, two silverbacks proved that love is not just a human construct, it is a memory that even the jungle cannot erase. Tansy took a risk most experts would call reckless. She bet her life on a bond formed in childhood, and she was right. But would you make the same wager? If you had raised a wild animal, would you trust it with your life a decade later? Tell us in the comments, and if stories like this remind you why the natural world still has the power to surprise us, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.